FlossTube, and welcome to Fairy Tales and French Knots. I'm Erin, and this is my channel about cross-stitch, where I talk long enough to make my family wonder what I'm up to, but short enough that you can watch this on your lunch break. Today is Sunday, October 5th, 2025, and this is episode 43. If this is your first time stopping by, welcome, and if you've been here before, welcome back. I haven't been up to a whole lot this past month or so since my last full-length video. As I mentioned in my last video, this is swim season, so our family schedule is pretty packed. But I have managed to get a little bit of work done on a couple projects. I did some finishing, and I have a little bit of stash to show off and a few things to talk about. So it'll be pretty quick, but I have some content. So let's start with what I have worked on. And first of all, Sea Hag by Plum Street Samplers normally sits right over here next to me on this shelf. But a couple weeks ago, I looked over at it and went, you know, I should work on you. So I loaded it up onto my Lowry and started stitching. And when I got done, I'll show you. I'm not sure when I last showed this. It may have been years at this point. So I don't know if it will look like, I don't know if there's any comparison point to, before and after at this point. But anyway, I finished this bottom row of little fish skeletons. And I also worked on the lettering up here. So I started this piece right in the center. So I believe the sailboat or boat is pretty much the center. At the bottom, there is the mermaid or sea hag, and up at the top is a compass rose. And there's not a lot of stitching on this one, but there is a lot of counting because there's a lot of empty space between each row of letters, between some of the motifs and things. So it takes more focus than I thought it would. It's also on a 40 count fabric from Fiber on a Whim, and it's a very tight fabric. So while it is a 40 count, and I love 40 counts, I think it feels more like a 46, 52-ish. It takes a lot of focus to get the spacing, especially the spacing in those letters right. So I can't guarantee that it's going to get finished really soon, but I made progress, so that's good. I've also been working pretty steadily on the old shaker tune from Homespun Elegance, and here's that. I've got most of the verse done. Since I showed it last, I've also added the house up here at the top. So now there's house at the bottom, house at the top. Got a few more of the flowers filled in. They're kind of randomly scattered throughout the vine. And I did change the title. That was a suggestion that a friend made. Simple Gifts is the tune or the title that more commonly appears in, hymnals and things like that. So I changed it from Old Shaker Tune, which is what was charted, to Simple Gifts. And I got quite a lot of the verse done. This is also on a 40 count. This is a 40 count limited edition from Color and Cotton that does not have a name. And again, I made a few color substitutions. The main one being I used a variegated dark green for the vine. And I'm actually using a sewing thread for the lettering. The DMC... Excuse me, the DMC that I was using was getting way too frayed. So with the fraying, I decided to go into my stash of sewing threads and find something that worked better. And I think it came out pretty well. So there's that. That's what I've been working on, with the exception of my World of Hedgehogs piece. That's my lunch stitching, and it's currently at work. At least I hope it is, because I can't find it in my stash. So that's what I've been working on. And I did some finishing, and I showed one piece, my how to finish irregular shapes video. I showed this piece there, but I've actually made some changes to it since then. This is Nosegay by Homespun Elegance. And if you watched the finishing video that I made, it originally had a blue and a bright pinky melon colored flower and then a lighter pink flower over here. I took that all out and I added just this one little pink flower and some green leaves. I like that better. So this is what it looks like now, all ready to hang on the wall or stand up somewhere. Thought that came out pretty cute. And after I finished that, I got obsessed with finishing. I decided it was time to focus on some of the things left in my finished box. I guess some people call them under the bed boxes, or, you know, things you've finished stitching but you haven't done anything with yet. So I went through there, and the first thing I found was Lilacs by Lavender Wings, which I stitched on a piece of fabric. I think this is from Country Stitch, the Australian dyers that I bought, gosh, probably 20 years ago. So I don't know the name or the count or anything. It's probably 28 count. But this is Lilacs. And this frame was one that I found at the thrift store. I think I showed it in a video earlier of my thrift store finds. When I found it, it did not have these little beads on it. It had basically little divots in the frame. I'll put a picture of it over here so you can see. I looked at those and they looked like they might have had gemstones or something in them at some point. And I decided to try and find something. So first I went through all my beads, but no matter what beads I tried to put in there, I didn't have any round ones. It was the problem. They would sit so that the hole was what you could see, the hole in the bead. So like my Mill Hill beads and things just didn't look right there. And I tried to fiddle with them and get them to stand the way I wanted, but it wasn't worth the hassle. These are actually pinheads. And I got out my metal snips, cut the pin part off, and glued them into the little divots in the frame. So the color is just perfect for the fabric, and then the pink and purple pinheads go with the pink and purple lilacs, and it came out really nice. And this also, it had a back, which was great. I threw the glass away because it didn't have the depth that it would have needed to hold the stitching, which also has actually tons of French knots and beads. Sorry, my tablet felt like talking to you for a moment there. It would not have had the depth to accommodate that and the glass and the backing. So I threw the glass away and just kept it as needlework. And really, I'm okay with that for a lot of my stitching. If I take it to my framer, I will have him put glass on it. But if I'm taking it to my framer and paying him to frame it, it's already something that I look at as special in some way. It's beyond my, I'm going to make this into a thing myself level. So, yeah, if I frame it myself at home, chances are that while I like it, it's not something that I think of as having any sort of, real lasting importance. And then the third piece that I finished after all that was Mermaid Spoken Here by White Lion Needleworks. I finished it like this. This frame was one that I got at my local Michael's a long time ago. They used to have a section in the back of the store where they would sell frames, like custom frames that somebody rejected for whatever reason. Either they were cut wrong or somebody just didn't want it, but they're not standard sizes. So this one is actually marked on the back. You can see it says as is 8 7/8 by 10 1/8. So I guess you couldn't put it out with your 8.5 by 11s or 9 by 10s. So there it is. And it worked perfect for that piece. This piece I did actually pin to foam core and then used my point driver to hold the back in. That point driver was one of my favorite eBay or Amazon orders. I couldn't tell you exactly what brand or how much or anything about it, but it's so much fun. It's kind of satisfying to, mash it down and thunk those little point drivers or little points into the frame and hold everything together. So, yeah, all done. So that's my finishing projects for the past month. I haven't really figured out where I'm going to display those 3 pieces yet, but they are finished. And I do have a little bit of stash, so if you don't like to see stash, my apologies, but I'm going to show you the 4 patterns and a couple pieces of fabric that I picked up. The first 2 patterns are ones I got on the Stash Unload groups. This is one that is designed to fit in a jewelry box, and we all know how I love to finish jewelry box tops. So this is a Ladies Keepsakes box by the Stitching Parlor. And I just love those little fat birds and those little flowers. It's so cute. And then it's got, the pattern includes an edge for the inside of the box and a piece for the bottom of the inside of the box. So I think I have a jewelry box in my stash that it will fit, depending on, which size fabric I use, what count fabric I use. And then this one just made me laugh. It's a little, it's like 5 by 7 if you stitch it on 14 count, so it's not very big. And it's called Snow by Crosspoint Designs. I love snow when I'm indoors. It's perfect. Hoping we get some snow this year. Right now we're in the midst of a drought practically here in upstate New York. But, a snow day or two, I could get that finished and do something with it. Something small, probably. Put it in a frame that I have in my frame stash. So, yeah, those were my 2 Stash Unload group pickups. And then at our guild meeting this past week, we used to have a local needle workshop called Stitchery Row in Endicott, New York. The store closed a few years ago. The owners retired and moved out of state, but they've stayed in touch with our guild and they're still friends with many of the members. The owner doesn't really know me very well because I moved to the area right about the time she was wrapping up her business. But when I told her the things that I had purchased from her before she closed, she might have remembered me. I don't know. But anyway, she brought some inventory, and I had thought that she'd be selling a bunch of old things, old store inventory, but she did have some newer patterns and things like that. So I think she's still kind of ordering. I don't know. It seemed a little weird, but hey, whatever. She brought some bins of patterns and some fabric and things like that. So at the guild meeting, I picked up Between Friends, a winter sampling from Hands On Design and Summer House Needleworks. I like that sampler. I like the colors. And inside, I also liked this piece here. I like the strawberry. I like these little thimble wrapped pieces or spool wraps. So the piece up at the top says, "The winter woods are filled with snow. I sit and stitch by the fire's glow." And that's actually on 2 different pieces of fabric, so you have to sew them together. Maybe I'd do that. Maybe I'd just use one piece and we'll see. But I liked several of these little smalls, and I can see me stitching them up and actually finishing them. So I got that. And then I always say I don't like reproduction samplers. This is We Live in Hope by Blackbird Designs, which I think was a retreat piece for one of the fancy retreats I didn't go to. But I really like this one. It's got this large sampler and it's got the smaller one on the back. First of all, it has boats. I like boats. I don't know why, but if it has a boat on it, for some reason I want to stitch it. And inside is a picture of the inspiration for these pieces. And in the write-up for it, it says that the inspiration for this pattern was stitched by Eleanor Davies from Belfast, Ireland. She completed her piece on July 2nd, 1834, and noting the motifs on her sampler, it's easy to believe someone in her family sailed the seas. So I know there are a lot of reproduction samplers out there. Many of them are done by people with lineages we can trace. Some we can't. There seem to be a lot of British and even colonial American ones. But seeing a true Irish sampler, I feel like there aren't as many of them. So this one got me because there is some Irish ancestry in my family, and finding a sampler that kind of speaks to that was kind of cool. So yeah, I think if I did this one, I'd make some changes and take out the alphabets. Also, this big one here, I might move this bird and move the words up into that space more, because he doesn't look like a bird to me. But we'll see. It's one of those things that I look at and think about and then put away. Have for later. I also picked up some fabric, just some smaller remnants of overdyed fabrics that the embroidery shop lady brought. And one of them is a piece of 40 Count Legacy from Picture This Plus. And the other one is a piece of 36 Count Vintage Country Mocha, because you can't have too much Vintage Country Mocha. They're all smaller cuts. Like this is only 11 by 12 and a half. But I like smaller things, so I'm sure I'll use those. So that was my stash acquisition. The other thing I did pay for, StitchCon. I paid my StitchCon invoice, so I know it's a ways off, but I'm hoping to be going to Weekend A. I mean, obviously I've paid to go to Weekend A. I reserved my hotel rooms for Weekend A, so unless something happens between now and June, I will be at Weekend A of StitchCon in 2026. So, yay! It's also very convenient that invoices were due in October, and October is a 3-paycheck month. So, winning. Oh, I had a giveaway in my last video. Only one person used the word acorn in a comment, and actually only one person commented, but hey, I guess that means that one person wins. So, Shelly, send me a message. 13 Oak Street is yours. And I will pop that in the mail to you. One last thing, I don't like to use my channel for advertising so much or trying to sell people things, but I have made 5 of these little travel sewing kits like I gave away for my table gifts at StitchCon. I was at the store, they were on clearance, the little boxes, and I kind of went nuts. So I made 5 of them. They're all different. They all have a needle minder of some kind and a pair of matching tiny scissors in them. They're not all pink like this. There's also some floral ones, one with psychedelic swirlies. I don't know how else to describe it. And I put them in an Etsy shop, and I'm going to link that below if you're interested. Please, please, please don't feel like, this is a channel where I sell things, because I do not. I just know that Etsy is a tough place to get exposure, so I'm going to do it this way. And I am not by any means somebody who makes and sells a whole lot of stuff. I'm just a crazy crafter who made too many of one thing and now would like to get rid of them. So yeah, that's been my September, I guess, because it's only early October, right? And I'm hoping to get some Halloween stitching started maybe, or some sort of, dark October thing happening. I was looking through my finishing and I found a couple little creepy smalls, so maybe I can get those together for another video here in the next month or so. Swim season is still happening, so I make no guarantees. But until my next video, keep making cool stuff and being awesome people. See you later.